So we actually lost all of the footage up until Ben takes off in the spaceship, more or less, excluding a few parts at the start. So I'm going to do a quick recap of all those bits now for anyone that doesn't know the game. For those of you that do, check the cards in the corner now and click the link so that you can go straight to the first video. For those who actually do want the recap, we can go through that now. Ben makes his way through the village, talking to a few of the villagers. You get a general impression that all of them are nice. He also learns how to use the signal scope in a grueling test where he has to pick up the radio waves of these two expert hiders and figure out where they are. As you can see, the signal scope picks up radio waves. Up the top of this tower here, he also learned how the scout launchers work. The spacesuit comes with a scout launcher, so expect Ben to be using these a lot. Oh, and I should probably mention, his race is called the Harthians, and they've travelled out into space and gone to all different planets. Using the signal scope, he can pick up quite a few of their signals as music, each instrument gifted to them by the old lady that lives within the town. Ben is also introduced to the idea of ghost matter. These crystals represent ghost matter, which he is informed is deadly. And using the scout launcher camera, he can actually see the areas that are deadly. It's not restricted to the crystals themselves. Ben then goes into this tutorial cave and gets given a task to fly around and repair something that's in the center of the planet. This is the first time Ben got to fly. He did awfully, but learned a lot about the controls, and from this point onwards did pretty good. Just don't tell him that I said how bad he was. Oh yeah, and he learned how to use the flashlight as well. After completing the tutorial, Ben then headed back up and on his way to the observatory, which is where he was told he would get the codes for launching the ship. At the observatory, we get introduced to a lot of exhibits. We get to see the people that first started exploring space, other Harthians. We also get to see when they first landed on the moon, the Harthian flag. Ben then meets Hal. Hal is one of the main character's friends and helped him develop the Nomai translator. As you also learn in the museum, the Nomai are alien. The Harthians have no idea who they are or where they came from and have never met them because the Nomai all suddenly died long before the Harthians had ever evolved. This Nomai statue is very important to the story, but we'll get to that later. Here's the first example of the Nomai handwriting. As you can see, when we get close to it, the translator pops up and we can hold a button to translate the text, which is what Ben's going to be doing a lot of, and while we're playing, I'll be reading this text out. You can see here that there's lots of things about the Nomai that the Harthians wonder, and a lot of things they just don't have answers to. Where did the Nomai go? What killed them? And why did they come to this solar system in the first place? You can also see that a lot of the Nomai technology has been haphazardly thrown together with Harthian technology for lots of different purposes, such as recalling the scout after it has been fired. You can also see a lot of other things the Nomai made, such as these crystals which alter gravity. This is the player's introduction to walking on walls with this gravity. I have no idea how these would be transported, realistically. But let's not ask questions. It's all good. You also get an introduction to this little guy, who is an anglerfish, found near Dark Bramble. You get an introduction to the physics, with these orbs moving of their own accord, seemingly actually influenced by the position of the other planets, which dynamically affect the player's gravity and the gravity of the other dynamic objects around them. You also get an introduction to the life cycle of suns. They start out small, get bigger until they turn into a red giant, then compress down and explode in a supernova. You also get a lovely introduction to this strange rock, which seems to go wherever you're not looking, the moment you look away from it. Creepy. Moving upstairs, we then meet Hornfels, and we get to view the map, which shows off the paths of all the different planets in the solar system, and lets us get our first look at the place we're going to be playing in. Hornfels lets us choose our first mission. Not that we really have to stick with it, but you can decide where to go from here, and it gives you a good few starting places. For example, Ben decided that he was going to go to Giant's Deep, and that is what he went and did. This is where the story first kicks in. As one leaves the location, the statue looks at the player. Talking to Hal about this, he really doesn't know what's going on, and neither does your character. You keep making your way towards the ship's launch pad and set off on your first journey, which is exactly what Ben did, which is where we're going to pick up from. Oh, but not before we're told that we need to be careful in space. Now we have the launch codes from Hornfels, we can leave on our first space mission. So now you know what happens at the start of Outer Wilds. Let's see how Ben does.